Hey everybody, Nick here, and today we have a disassembly here for you on this little guy right here. This is the BRS Systems Evolve Series Eon. So first off, this is dead centered. The action on this guy is very good. There's no play or anything like that. Second, this is going to be a little unusual relative to many disassemblies because this handle is a single chunk of titanium. That's right, this is an integral pocket knife, and as a result, the takedown should be a little different than we're used to. What we have here is a very common integral design where you've got a pivot, and then attached to the pivot you've got a collar, and that collar actually has a little piece that slides over the stop pin, because in an integral knife, the stop pin is always the difficult thing to do, right? Because you need to have a separate piece in there, but on an integral, you can't really have that separate piece be, well, you can't mill that inside of there necessarily, and you want to be able to remove the blade. So what I've done, what I've gone ahead and done is I've removed one half of the pivot here. That's the first step. Second step is going to be to push this pivot through. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use this watch spring bar tool here and just kind of press it through here. And sometimes it's helpful to kind of get the blade into an intermediate state. Yeah, see right there, now it's popping loose. So what I can do is I can pull this through the other side. That gives me the other half of the pivot here very safely removed. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, could be that the blade just slides out. Yeah, it does. So what I'm doing right now is very important. I am putting some pressure right here on the lock bar with my finger, such that the lock bar doesn't, depending on the amount of pressure that the lock bar's got, and I'm now using a plastic spudger tool here, I just don't want the lock bar to come slamming over against the side of the other side of this thing and potentially like shatter the detent ball or anything like that. It really shouldn't be the case that it's that tight in there, but it's something that's good to be careful with, right? It's something to be good, you know, it's something that you can prevent it, so prevent it, right? So there you go. And we are actually now completely disassembled. That's the nice part about integral knives, is that they are super easy to disassemble because really there's only the one step. There's only the one screw. So what I'll go ahead and do, oh, interesting. It looks like they are using stainless steel washers inside that area there. And in fact, I can see those washers on one side there. That's pretty easy to see. So I'm going in here with a Q-tip, and I'm just trying my best, and I've put some rubbing alcohol onto this Q-tip here. I'll go ahead and, whoa there, splashing stuff everywhere. I'm just going to go on ahead and kind of get in here and try and clean up as much as I can inside of here. And on this one here, I can actually use I can take out the washer. Might be able to take the washer out on this side too. Yeah, okay, I just did. Great, so I can pull the washer out on... Did I put it back in? Yeah, I accidentally reinstalled it. That's cool. This really wants to be in place. There we go. Come on. Now I got that underneath it. There we go. There we go. Okay, great. So I've now basically cleaned out the inside of that. The other place I want to make sure I clean off is the detent ball. And that area, you can see here we do have a lock bar insert here, which is nice. And if you're ever curious about any of the tools I'm using for my disassemblies, go ahead and go to nickshabazz.com/tools, and you will see all of them in action, with descriptions, links to buy, everything like that. So there you go. Next thing, I am seeing that this guy has been assembled with a relatively thick grease. And I don't think that's going to be the best approach here. I think we can get a little bit better performance of it, or out of it, that is, using a thinner lubrication. So I'll go ahead and I'll clean out that thick grease here, and throwing the bearings everywhere. And clean out that thicker grease, and we'll run it on something a little lighter weight. The mechanics of exactly why a manufacturer chooses to use a given grease or oil is interesting, but kind of beyond me. I just work here. I don't work here, actually. I'm just a jackass. There you go. That's the better approach. All right. So, there we go. Make sure one thing to note is that as we look at this washer, one of the sides has evidence where the bearings run, the other side is clean. We want to make sure that the side with the bearing wear goes against the blade, or against the bearing, just because that's better. So we'll go ahead and we'll put that there. Nice. Now we'll go ahead and clean off the bearings here. We are almost done here. We're 4 minutes and 54 seconds in. Integral knives have a lot of cool benefits. I mean, most of which are just psychological, like, wow, that's neat. But one of the nice things about them is that the disassemblies tend to be super easy. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to slide this into position here. And making sure, again, that the bearing is properly placed, etc. That's good. I took this guy apart from the... Oh, and I'll clean off the pivot is the other thing that's worth doing. Just to make sure. So, pivot is clean. Next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to apply a little lubrication to the pivot. This is for two reasons. Partly to make my life easier as I reinsert the pivot, but partly to make sure that the... what am I trying to... Did I just lose that? Yeah, I did. Nice. But partly to make sure that the pivot is able to slide through there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, and I'm actually going to put a little tiny bit of oil on the back of the washer. This is not necessary. The reason that I'm doing it, though, is for reassembly purposes. That oil will help that washer stick a little bit to that interior pocket that it needs to fall into and not come back out again quite so readily, which will make my life just a little... Best laid plans of mice and men, right? Anyways, come on, get in place. It will make you stay more securely. There we go. All right. Now, next step is going to be to start putting this guy back together. The approach that I'm going to take here is actually going to be... I'm going to put a little bit of lubrication on the back of this guy as well. Again, the goal is giving there enough in there for it to stay in position. So, again, I'm just shepherding this washer into place. Come on. Get there. Okay, good. What I now have is actually both washers are in position. That's good. Next step is going to be to apply a little bit of lubrication to the washer, to the bearing race, that is, on the blade, because that's really the only place I need it there. And then I'll use the bearings themselves to sort of distribute lubrication a little bit. And then I will also apply a little bit of lubrication to the detent ball hole. This has an amazing grind, by the way. We'll talk about that more in the review, but yeah, beautiful. That should make the action a little nicer. So, next step is going to be to slide this blade into position here. What I've done here is I've got the bearings here. Let me clear out that little bit of schmutz. Okay. Now I've got the bearings here sort of pinched into position. And now I just need to get this blade sort of slid into place. I need to make sure that I'm around the stop pin. Are my two steel washers in? Yeah, they're in place. Okay, good. Here we go. Perfect. Blade is now back in position. Next step is going to be to slowly reinsert the pivot. Well, actually, in this case, probably pretty quickly, just because I don't... There we go. Okay, so what just happened is the lock bar fell down, and sometimes you can reassemble the knife with the lock bar down, but very often what you actually need to do is to lift the lock bar just a little tiny bit here to give to take some of the tension out of the system. Make sure I can push the pivot through from the other side here. Lift it a little more. Come on. Why are you not going in, bro? Oh, probably the stop pin's not all the way seated. All right, I'm going to try this in a different position here. Could it be that I'm doing this backwards? Probably not. Why are we not happening here? Something's off. Stop pin is in place. That's good. Could there be something underneath the pivot? Let's find out. I'm going to go ahead and, just because it's not so hard to do this, I'm going to go ahead and pop the pivot back out again. Just make sure, okay, it is the case that the stop pin has come a little bit up and out. So I'll go ahead and I'll press this into place now after I push the stop pin down. That should... Something just happened. Not quite sure what, but something did. The other possibility is that the pivot actually needs to go in the other direction. So what I'm going to do, before I get all brute forcey on this, what I'm going to do is actually pop this guy all the way out and then try it from this direction and just see whether I get better results. Okay, in that case, it went all the way in pretty straightforwardly. I want to make sure, I'm just looking in here right now. Just visually inspecting to make sure that I have both of my steel washers, and I do. And everything seems to be in rough alignment. So you know what? Things are working out. So it could actually be that that I put those guys, that I took them off in the wrong order. Or I'm sorry, that I tried to put them back on in the wrong position. You know, one of them needs to be on the show side, the other needs to be on the lock side, and they are keyed accordingly. I don't know. Either way, everything seems to be working out, so I'm just going to go ahead and seal this back up, so to speak. Now what this should allow me to do, everything is dead center again. Oh, that's a nice action. Everything looks great interiorly. No blade play. I'm going to see if I can loosen the pivot a little bit and whether that'll have any effect on my life. Make things even nicer. Now we've got a slight bit of... oh, no, that introduced a little play. Okay, so I was right on. Nice. All right, so let's... There we go. No play. Dead center. Ah, slipped off the tab. And there we go. Beautiful. So, there you go. Hope you found this interesting. And most of all, have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.